Hey everyone, welcome back to Mike Foster Outdoors. First off, if you've been a follower of my channel for a while, I really appreciate it. Thanks for following along with all my fishing adventures. And secondly, if you're new to the channel, please check out some of my videos I got down through here. I've been doing this for several years now. Got a lot of cool local tournament footage, some fun fishing, and all sorts of different things on there. But I appreciate all of you. And this year I moved up to fish the Toyota Series, Plains Division. There's 3 tournaments. We just finished up Kentucky Lake, which was stop 1, and then Grand Lake will be stop 2, which I head to Grand on like April 7th. And then towards the end of September we'll go to Lake of the Ozarks. Fingers crossed we can stay in the top 25. So some of you have probably already seen my day 1 and day 2 videos of the tournament, so you know how I did in Kentucky Lake. But if you haven't, you might go check them out. And it was a really cool experience fishing a tournament. I've never fished one at that high of a level as a solo tournament. So like I said, I appreciate you guys, all of you. And if I could ask one more thing, I really enjoy the comments on my videos. A lot of people don't comment that watch it. If you just give me a thumbs up and some comments, I always answer all of them back. So let's get into this video today, guys. So this is just going to be a recap of kind of how my practice progressed, and then when we switched over into the tournament we had to make some adjustments. But that's typical when you're fishing something for 3 days of practice and you got a 2 or 3 day tournament. Nothing out of the norm. So we're gonna go over kind of what I found out in practice. Thought I had a pretty good idea. I wasn't getting many bites doing it, but I was getting the right bites, and I didn't see anybody else doing it. So let's get into that, guys. So when I started my practice, day 1, I was just checking a lot of different things, and I ramped in Jonathan Creek, and I fished in the back of Jonathan Creek that first day before I went out on the main lake, and I ended up catching like a 4.5 pound largemouth, which was, I mean, it was a real solid fish. And I had a couple other fish back there doing that too, but like way back, all the way back as far as you can get. And the lake was at Winter Pool, so I think it was like 354 around there. They moved it around a little bit while I was down there, but 359 is Summer Pool. And I had never fished down there at Winter Pool, so that in itself was different to me. But that 4.5 pound largemouth, I caught it on this little red square bill right here, which that's a good looking little bait. This is a custom bait made by Paul Wilson, Cricklewood Tackle. He's a local guy over here in Indiana, lives not too far from me. And if I had this bait running on, I was throwing it on a little bit lighter line. Sometimes I throw my square bills on heavier line if I'm in heavy cover or around laydowns and stuff. But I was just fishing like chunk rock points and things of that nature. So I could actually get this square bill down to almost 7 feet on this lighter line, which that can be a big deal sometimes as opposed to running like 5 foot. And I had this on my 6/8 Dixie custom glass cranking rod, and that was one heck of a nice little rod for throwing square bills around. I'll put a link down in the description for if I can find a link for Cricklewood, I'll put that in there as well, and for Dixie custom. So anyways, I catch this big 4.5 pounder, and I try to duplicate that in some other areas throughout that day 1. I caught some fish out on the main lake, like 2 3/4 pound smallmouth doing it, but I didn't replicate it in any of the other areas like farther back that I tried. So I'm like, well, maybe the water's not quite warm enough, something's off. So day 2, we end up, I spent most of the day out on the main river because Kentucky Lake right now, the smallmouth are dominating. So we were trying to figure those out. I was fishing offshore stumps and just current breaks and stuff like that. Couldn't get anything going on that was solid. I'd catch a random fish here and there that was a decent fish, but in my mind I couldn't like pattern it. I couldn't get that figured out. So it was probably like 2 o'clock in the afternoon on day 2, because I fished almost till dark each day. Day 2, at that 2 o'clock-ish time, we're all the way in Blood River, kind of halfway back, and I'm like, you know what, I'm gonna start running some of these pockets and going way all the way to the back of them again, where it's like 2 foot of water. Well, it was super sunny that day, and the water temperatures had gotten all the way up to like 62 in the back of these bays, which that's prime time. So I picked up chatterbait, started throwing it around. Of course, I like throwing, like a lot of people, I just throw the Z-Man jackhammer. But I have one of my personal favorite trailers is a Lake Fork Magic Shad. Not just throwing chartreuse and white, 1/2 ounce. That trailer's kind of trash because I just went over to the Honey Hole Lake last week. We caught 115 bass in 3 hours. I always pair my chatterbaits up with the Dixie Custom chatter stick. It's 7-1 glass blank. You can see that right there. I fished chatterbait since it came out. This hands down the best chatterbait rod that I've ever used. Hardly lose any fish on this thing. It just loads up, and if they try to make it's like any good glass blank. If they try to make a run at the boat or something, they don't pull off because the rod takes a lot of the run out of it. So anyways, I get on this chatterbait bite, and I run like 6 or 7 pockets in the last little bit of light there and catch fish in every one of them. I have another 4.5 pounder, catch a 3, and I have several other like 15 inchers. I can tell there's not many females all the way back there yet, but there's enough because you could just run pockets all over the lake. Get 4 or 5 bites, you might have 16 to 18 pounds. But in those pockets I caught like gar, drum, I had a crappie, bass, white bass, yellow bass, catfish. I had all kinds of bites of different trash fish and stuff back there. So I'm like, sweet, day 3 of practice, I start I push the smallmouth issue a little bit out on the main lake again, but I go back and fish some more pockets. I even go into Barkley and fish some pockets. I get bit in the back of all them pockets again. So that was my practice. I'm like, I told my buddy Jackson Riley, him and I were down there together, and I'm like, dude, there's some in these pockets, but they're few and far between, but when you can get them, they're the right ones. So we were bouncing some ideas off of each other and whatnot. So anyways, my plan in day 1 going into the tournament, I'm running as many pockets as I can. I'm going as far back as I can because no one else I haven't seen another bass boat within 200 yards of how far back I was going. Had to raise my trolling motor up. And those fish were back there that far. Well, about halfway through day 3 of practice, which was the day before the tournament, they start pulling more current. I think they were pulling like 80-some thousand on the first day of the tournament. It dropped the water just enough, pretty sure it backed some of those fish off. And if you watch that day 1 video, you can see it. We stay persistent, me and my co-angler Rodney. We fish that same pattern for like 6 hours. We both have 2 keepers to show for it. So I told Rodney, I was like, man, we gotta change up. So when I rigged my tackle the night before, day 1, I have been throwing red and getting bit on it, but everybody and their brother down there is throwing red. It's springtime. Well, I noticed in practice at the back of those bays, I'd seen a lot of bait and shad and stuff stirring around and flipping, some fish even busting on the shad. And I hadn't thrown a shad collar bait all through practice, but I did tie on a Frittside 5 in honey shad, and I threw that when I made this adjustment late in the day on the day 1 of the tournament. I decided to put the chatterbait down, and I picked up that Frittside 5 and ended up getting bit on. That's what my first 2 fish early in the day were on. And then when I made the adjustment, I went to a stretch of bank with an hour to go and was able to fill my limit out. That's the same little bait I was throwing right there. Like I said, it's just a Fritside 5 and honey shad, and that little dude will catch them. I've had some really good days with that and a red collar too. Again, just throwing it on. I had this on a 7-foot X-Glass Dixie custom cranking rod. I throw all my crankbaits on glass rods. I've done that for 15 years probably. Whenever KVD came out with those awesome blanks he had back in the day that were glass. Guys, I wanted to mention real quick, if any of you guys like throwing tungsten weights, TMO Tackle has the best tungsten that I've fished with. You might check them out. They've actually grown and expanded. They got baits now, they got jigs, jig heads, some tubes, all sorts of different stuff. But I've been fishing TMO Tackle tungsten since they started making them, and I fish a lot of rocky lakes and stuff, and I have yet to chip one of them things. And the best thing about them is they got the weight right on the side, which a lot of places are doing that now. They were one of the earlier places to do it. But you might give them a look and see what they have that you guys might like. But I highly recommend TMO Tackle for your tungsten. So anyways, we made that adjustment, was able to fill our limit day one, and the stretch of bank that I made the move to was probably 300 or 400 yards out from the back of one of the bays where I'd caught a couple of my better fish in practice. I felt like that water moving down just a little bit, it don't take much, pulled them out some. And so day two of the tournament, we started there, and I fished from basically where I made the adjustment on day one all the way out to the mouth of that creek. And I think we're just fishing in Little Bear. It's a pretty heavily fished area, but I was able to catch 4 fish from the start of the tournament until like 10 o'clock on that same little Fritside 5. And then we went down to Jonathan Creek, and I was trying to go down there and maybe get one more good bite, like a 4-pounder, because I caught that one there in day one of practice. And our water temperatures are still good, even though we had a couple cooler nights, they were still up in the upper 50s. And we got down there, and my co-angler, he caught one kind of towards the mouth of Jonathan, and then we went a little farther back in, just fishing our way in, just cranking. He caught his second one, and then we got all the way back here in the back where I'd had that 4-pounder on day one, and he catches him a 4-pounder off that same spot. Not the same fish, because the one I caught had a big old black spot on its lip and its sides, but that spot back there was like a point coming out, and like some first early stagers sliding up on that point when the sun was out, because it was kind of stained water. But if you guys go back and watch my day one and day two videos, you can see some of this stuff go down. But I just wanted to give a recap on what happened throughout this tournament. Day two, I only ended up catching those 4. I never did catch that 5th fish, but I finished up 68th place out of 158. You know, for my first Toyota series, I was a little disappointed not to weigh in a limit both days, because I felt like I could at least do that. But I'll take that finish because it didn't hurt me too bad for the points. And the goal in this year of trying to fish these Toyotas is I'm trying to make the Toyota Championship, which is on Wheeler Lake in November. So we need a good tournament at Grand Lake, and we'll be in pretty good shape, I think, because Lake of the Ozarks in the fall time, I'm feeling some serious brush pile jig action going on there. I've never been there, but I know how fish get in brush piles in the fall. So again, guys, I hope you liked this video. Leave me a dang comment down below so I can read it and answer you back. And tight lines till next time, guys.